Let's explore how a move to a hybrid model of work affects employee mental health and wellbeing. It's a topic that's never been more important. In the past year, our employees have not only grappled with the levels of uncertainty that a pandemic brings, but the challenges of lockdown and reduced social interaction. From a work perspective, many have faced work restructures and redundancies going on around them as well. For some, this has meant loneliness, isolation, fear, anxiety and burnout. Let's now find out from you via another quick poll. Is your organisation's approach to wellbeing suited to a hybrid working environment? So I'm happy to be able to introduce Sharon Ponnier, Director of Mental Health and Wellbeing here at PwC Australia, who will be discussing these issues with Margot Lydon, the CEO of Superfriend.
Thank you, Michelle. Look, we've come to one of the most important aspects of the future of work, how we enable each and every one of us to be well, participate and thrive in our workplaces. We have come through such a myriad of environmental shocks that have blurred the distinctions between work and life, adding significant stress to an already complex situation. Take our recent PwC Hopes and Fears report, for example, which found just 21% of workers believe their employer helps them to manage stress and focus on creating mental and emotional wellbeing. Now, we've got a poll that Michelle sang out earlier, and I think we've got a bit of a lag here on some of these findings coming back, so I might pick this up a little bit later down the line. But look, I'm also thrilled to be joined by Margot Lydon, who's sitting next to me. She's the Chief Executive of Superfriend, an organisation that advocates for, equips and empowers superannuation funds and insurers to achieve mentally healthy workplaces for their staff and members. Welcome, Margot.
Thanks, Sharon. It's great to be here.
You and I have been talking for some time about how organisations can identify practical steps in the workplace to drive action. For me, it's really about taking an integrated approach to mental health and wellbeing that embeds this focus through all business functions. I often describe this in 3 layers. First, it's about getting the policies and the procedures right at a minimum to manage risk. Then it's the experiential layer, helping to redesign the end-to-end workplace experience with mental health and wellbeing as a key thread through everything, a little bit like how we look at diversity and inclusion, actually. And finally, for workplaces that have the appetite to go further, the key is to look for proactive and digitally enabled tools and solutions to support wellbeing in the workplace. Margot, along with your day job, you also chair one of the most influential committees helping to shape the National Workplace Initiative under the Mental Health Commission. Can you tell us a little bit about why workplaces are being viewed as change agents for mental health, and considering the challenges and unknowns of a hybrid workforce, what are the things that are going to push workplaces forward or set them back?
Great question, Sharon. Look, I think we've got to recognise that the workplace, for what we've seen and heard today, is definitely changing, and hence we've got to consider people's mental health and wellbeing as part of that change. Those workplaces that are really leaning into this change and being adaptable towards hybrid workplaces are ones that are taking action, are listening to their staff, are really taking on board the opportunity to embrace this change. And as a result, they're getting the competitive advantage from it. And they're getting that for not only their staff, but also their customers and the broader community. So we are really seeing the opportunity ahead of us when it comes to workplaces and thinking about policies and an integrated approach. It's how that turns up. What is the experience of your people every day in workplaces? And that is across a number of domains. Certainly policies, but needing to be visible and in action. Leadership is an important role. Culture and having a culture of care. Certainly the capability and how we're investing in people. And I think one of the things that have come out of this report that is concerning is that investment in the future of leadership and the future of workers. We need to see that actually increase if we're going to see improved mental health and wellbeing.
I think that's absolutely right, Margot. And when I look at it from my perspective, for a long time, workplaces have kept occupational health and safety and wellbeing functions separate to people and culture functions. The role that workplaces play in preventing, mitigating and managing mental health has more or less relied on having an employee assistance program. But this is starting to change, I think, and workplaces are thinking differently about what their role is, but also what it isn't, and how to approach this differently. I am noticing actually that many workplaces are doing their homework. They're getting their strategies in place and they're doing a lot of consultation and co-creation on site and in-house. But many are now getting stuck on where to go next and what to do. Many are shouting for practical and accessible guidance. And at this last point, it's important because, you and I both know there's actually a wealth of evidence-based and incredibly valuable resources and toolkits out there already. But people either don't know where they are, they become overwhelmed, or they find it really difficult to work out what's right for me. So, Margot, I guess with you and your team having rolled out the Indicators of a Thriving Workplace survey for almost 6 years now, do you have any insights or thoughts on the way forward here? What do you think are the non-negotiables that every workplace should be designing for to overcome some of these challenges?
Sharon, you've touched on a really big point, and that is workplaces are overwhelmed and confused as to where to start and what to do next. What the Indicators of a Thriving Workplace national survey that we run every year tells us is that workplaces really need to understand by taking practical action, that is what employees experience every single day, which has a really positive impact on people's health and wellbeing. So I would be really encouraging employers to look at what are they currently doing, undertaking a bit of an audit. It strikes me that sometimes we go off and we invest an enormous amount in new interventions, and yet we haven't actually understood that we had some great initiatives, they just weren't being well utilised in the workplace in the first place. So I think understanding what those lead and lag indicators are, what is the data you currently have, diversity, equity, inclusion data, employment data, those sort of things can be really, really helpful. Understanding what you currently have and then building a plan with your workforce that is fit for purpose is going to make the difference. One of the key findings, and this is not just over the back of the last year of COVID results where we saw an uptick in people experiencing mental health conditions to now 2 in 5 workers, but more broadly across the 6 years of data, is that when workplaces consistently invest in their people leaders training about mental health and wellbeing, and this is skills-based training, not awareness training, so really understanding the skills that are required for people leaders across a business has a massive ripple on the pond effect. So I'd be really encouraging employers to look to what could you be doing to build the leaders of tomorrow to help your workers and your workplace really have the great environment that brings together that connection and belonging, but also enables us to have really human-based conversations. And it's through that hybrid experience that we've had in the last 12 months of working from home that we really need to invest in people and their capability to have those meaningful and purposeful conversations.
Thanks, Margot. I completely agree. And thank you for being with us today. It's been so wonderful having you to share your experiences and insights. I think we've covered some really big and important issues, not just about managing business risk, but also a huge opportunity to boost engagement, productivity, and have a societal impact. And we know there's a return. So for every dollar spent on businesses on successful mental health programs, organisations can expect a return on investment of between $1 and $4, depending on which activities are chosen. I know this averages out at about $2.30 according to PwC data. So look, it's really a win-win for everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon and Margot. I'm delighted to hear those stats on the ROI of mental health programs, and I'm sure our audience is too, with over a third of people in the poll telling us that their current programs are not fit for purpose, not fit for hybrid working.